1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome to our board meeting for the fourth quarter of 2025. I call the meeting of the Board of Directors of Redox OS to order. When I state your name, please acknowledge your presence. I'm Ron Williams, I'm present. Jeremy Solar.
Present.
Alberto Souza.
Present.
Matthew John Roberts.
Present.
We have a quorum. Okay, I'm going to turn off my video now. Okay. The minutes from the previous board meeting have been provided to you. Are there any corrections? If there are no corrections, the meetings are approved as distributed. The minutes are approved as distributed. So just to recap some decisions that were made in the nonprofit room on Matrix, regarding the trademark, we've adopted a trademark policy for the name Redox OS. If you go to the website and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, there is a note there that Redox OS is a trademark of the nonprofit, and you can click on the link and see the trademark policy. It's also in the Redox repository with the name trademark.md. The primary goal of the policy is to prevent deceptive use of the name Redox OS. A trademark should act as an adjective when describing the organization or the software. So people should say the Redox OS operating system or just Redox OS, but not the Redox operating system. The name Redox is in use by many other products and projects, and we don't want to get into any conflicts. That's why it should be Redox OS whenever we use it. The next decision we made was to use remote.com for contract management. So we've adopted remote.com for our contract management website for developers that we hire as contractors. Remote.com handles international contracts. You don't have to provide any of the legal specifics. You just describe the work to be done and any limitations on the contract, but all the rest of the details are filled in by remote.com. They handle international contracts, they support international employees, and they support payment to the international employees. When we get to handling employees that require benefits and withholding tax and so on, remote.com can handle that, although it's at quite a bit higher price than for contractors. Next decision we made was, so Ibuki has made a proposal to present at FOSDEM, and that proposal has been accepted. He'll be presenting on February 1st in Brussels. As far as we know, there isn't a final schedule yet, but should be February 1st. So we're hoping to have the trip funded at least partly by NLNet. And the nonprofit has agreed to fund whatever part of the trip is not otherwise covered. I've since heard from NLNet. They have, because we had originally created a budget for both the ring buffers project and the capability-based securities project, they're not able to take money from both pools for a single presentation. But I had told them that we were planning on sending a second person on our own expense, and they suggested that they could expand the budget of the capabilities-based security project to pay a portion of that second person's travel budget. So it should hopefully work out to the same thing. We'll need to sort that out once we determine who the second person is going to be. But we should expect about a $3,000 travel budget for FOSDEM. So the next decision we made is that Andy Python, Anand Singh, is doing a summer of code project. He's in the Southern Hemisphere, so it's summer for him now. And rather than having a well-defined summer of code project, we've engaged him as a contractor to just generally work on improving Redox with a goal of self-hosting development. We don't expect to have self-hosting working perfectly by the time his project is finished, but he's making tremendous progress in improving Redox stability, correctness, and the ability to run complex software on Redox. So there's a budget that has been just allocated for him as a contractor. Are there any comments, concerns, or objections to these decisions that were made by the board? If there's no objections, these items are confirmed as adopted by the board. Can I get a motion to discuss our financial status?
Moved.
Seconded.
The 2024 financial report has not been completed. This is due to my lack of availability. I've just been busy with lots of other things. I've asked Matthew to help out, and I've kind of dumped all the information on him, but we're going to still have to spend time collaborating to get the 2024 financials completed and begin working on the 2025 financials. It's really just a matter of gathering up all of the data and getting it organized into a spreadsheet and totaling everything up. But there's a lot of data and multiple concurrencies and multiple transactions to exchange between concurrencies. So it's hard to make everything balance. So I'll be following up with Matthew in the coming weeks. So our current financial situation, we have $16,155 in our checking account. We have another $7,000 in our Wise account and a small amount in other accounts like Teespring and so on. We have about $4,000 in cryptocurrency. The cryptocurrency is not very accessible to us right now because we don't yet have a cryptocurrency exchange account set up. We have $2,100 owing on our credit card, so we have total in effectively cash assets of about $25,200. We have a payment expected from NLNet of $3,500, but some of the work is not yet completed. So I have about 2 weeks, possibly 3 weeks of calendar time of effort to finish off that work and make that claim. Our monthly income from donations is about $560. We have about $13,000 in planned one-time expenses, and we have monthly expenditures of about $2,050. So with our current cash flow and no new donations, we have enough cash to sustain us until September. That's not counting any upcoming RSOC projects. Those will have to be separately funded. So we're working with Jeremy to obtain additional funds from past donations to allow us to keep the funding of the team on an ongoing basis and to provide funds for our SOC. Are there any questions about the financial status? Anything that anybody wants to add? Okay. Can I get a motion to talk about development status?
Moved.
Seconded.
Okay, so I'm just going to be talking about the state of the funded work. We appreciate the contribution of our volunteers, but that's outside the scope of the nonprofit. Matthew is working with, this is regarding the work that's outside the scope. So Matthew is working with coordinating people to address the OS test results, and this is really just coordination of activities and not anything that's officially funded. So I just wanted to point that out. So in terms of the funded work, Wilden has made lots of improvements to the build system and has greatly improved our success rate with the overnight package and image builds. He's also improved the developer experience a lot, and that's specifically relating to the build system. And he's made improvements to the package manager, to dependency handling, and other things. So Wilden is paid as a part-time contractor on an ongoing basis. We have not yet found a full-time kernel developer. We need to discuss the strategy for ensuring we hire the right person. And once I finish the overall development status discussion, we can talk a little bit about that if we want, or we can postpone that discussion for discussion in the board, in the matrix nonprofit room, if you prefer. We had 3 Summer of Code projects this summer. Just one second. Sorry. We had 3 we had 3 Summer of Code projects this summer, and 2 of them did not produce any result. Neither of those 2 participants have made any claim for payment. The issue there, I think, was that we overstretched. One of the people that we signed up for our SOC was just simply not available, and the other person was much less available than expected, and I was much less active in the project than I had intended to be. So I think that's something that we need to watch going forward. We really need to, and this is a note to me, we need to be very careful about choosing projects where people are able to operate very independently and have the time to complete the project. So that's some additional diligence that's required on my part. We did have one very successful Summer of Code project that was done by Ibuki, and we've discussed that at the last meeting. So that was a 1 out of 3 success rate with Summer of Code. We have 3 NLNet funded projects underway. So the project's style, signals, and process management is almost concluded. We've just made a payment claim for a bunch of work that was done by 4LDO2. The substantial parts of that was originally allocated to work that I was doing, that I was planned to do, and that some of that money was intended to come to the Redox nonprofit, but it turned out that I wasn't available enough to do all of that work, and 4LDO2 took on quite a bit of that work and a lot of additional things over the course of the last few months. So, so he's claimed um, a fair chunk of that payment. I think that the the reduced payment coming to the nonprofit is about uh, 4,000 euros. I think I have to double check that, but uh, it's certainly money that 4LDO2 has earned with the many contributions he's made, um, including actually doing the work that it was intended to be paid to the nonprofit. Um, then we've got the capabilities-based security project. So there's a bunch of work that's ready to be merged or close to it, and it's going to be merged in stages over the next, or it's going to be ready to merge in stages over the next couple of weeks, and I think some of that has already been provided in draft form MR. Um, the the ring buffer IO project has a limited prototype that was done. We're going to have Ibuki move on to doing more work there once he gets his MRs from the capability-based security ready to go. And Ellen was originally going to work on the ring buffers project, but she's now left the project. So Ibuki and 4LDO2 are doing the work on capability-based security and ring buffer IO, and they're splitting the work between them. And Ibuki will be doing a fair chunk of that work over the next month and a half or so. And 4LDO2 is going to be working on it on an ongoing basis with hopefully a big jump in progress a little bit later on in the spring. We have 2 proposals out to NLNet that are pending right now. So we have a larger proposal that I made quite a while ago which is now focused on Redox as a hosted container. So that's Redox running on a Linux system in QEMU for the purpose of providing a secure container for web-based applications. That proposal is sort of on hold at NLNet. They're waiting for us to make more progress on the current funded projects and show them that we're not too busy to do the additional work. Now, we don't actually have a developer identified who would be able to do the work on this proposal. So right now I'm fine with the delay in getting the funding for that. And then there's an additional proposal for Ibuki that's targeted at next summer to continue improving our capability-based security and improving our compatibility with the overall BSD style capability-based security, as well as to work on supporting WASM's CAP standard library, which is a rewrite of the Redox standard crate focused on capability-based access to files and resources. So I'm going to open the floor now if you want to discuss the situation with hiring, or we could just move forward. So are there any questions or comments about development status?
Well, I wouldn't rule it a failure that we had 2 Summer of Code projects that did not end up in results. To have the budget that we have and make the progress that we've made this year, I think has been really good. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about having it go through like that a few times. We do need to keep trying to bring in new contributors, so it's been good. And the people that we did bring in would have been good, I think, if they were able to commit the time. Yeah. As for the financials, I just want to go backwards. There is a fundamental change in reporting if we go above $50,000 receipts for a year. So we need to consider how much we need. And it would be nice to split it into 2 halves where we receive 1 half this year to stay underneath the 50,000 receipts for this year and next year.
Okay, that is that's something that we should investigate. We would need to do a run through of the financials at a level that you're comfortable with, Jeremy. The bulk of the cash that we have was received in 2 payments. One was from DonorBox, and one was from NLNet, and then we have the ongoing money. So I would just a very, very rough estimate. We're somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 in receipts this year.
Okay.
But we'll need to go through that in detail and make sure that we have an accurate number.
Yep, but that's what I would plan, is to try to put it as close to 50,000 for this year so that we can file a Form 990N, which is just a single signature required on that form and no details. All you have to say is that you have receipts less than $50,000. Once you go above that amount, between up to $200,000, then you have a Form 990EZ, which is going to be a lot more work. And then if you go above $200,000 per year, you have a Form 990, and at that point, I would recommend getting a business accountant, getting a CPA to actually do the tax reporting. Yep.
So I 100% agree that at some point we're going to need a professional to help us with this. To be honest, sooner rather than later, but I'm not sure how much it would cost. My experience in the past has been that you can get fairly lightweight accounting done for around $2,000, but I don't know if that's still the case.
Yeah, I think it would probably be around that or less. And we can look. There are certainly more opportunities for nonprofits, and when I was looking for legal advice, there are legal firms, for example, that provide pro bono services to nonprofits. So it'd be useful to look for free or discounted services first. But I don't think it would be that expensive, and by the time we need it, we would have enough to cover it.
Okay, go ahead. So
yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk over you. If you have more to say,
No
please go
problem.
ahead.
That was all.
Okay, so uh, the the one concern that I have is in terms of hiring a developer. I don't want
Hmm.
to put the cart before the horse. I don't want to um, uh, make an offer to someone unless we are confirmed that we have the cash flow to support them. So
Yeah,
right now, given our our burn rate, we're going to need um, a donation of I'm doing some quick math in my head of approximately $20,000 plus our SOC. So if we do two SROC projects, that's another 11,000. So that would be $30,000 donation in total, and that would be keeping everything else at the level it's at right now.
sure.
But if there's opportunities, I I think one of the key things that I'm monitoring is people in the community who become available as full-time employees. I think that we have to be prepared to jump on that when it happens. I feel like we kind of missed out in the past a little bit. Not we didn't miss any opportunity that was clear and concrete, but I think that there have been one or two people that I would have made an offer to had we had the cash flow, and I want to be in a position that I'm confident that I can say, hey, you know, we do have money. So I'd like to get to a point where you're comfortable with that as well.
Yeah.
Um, And do you mind me asking how much of an issue is the 501c4 versus the 501c3 charity status for you
For in what context?
in terms of the past funds that were donated coming to Redox?
There's no real difference.
Okay,
The the primary difference for a donator is that they cannot write it off on their tax. However, with the standard deduction in the US being $25,000, it it would require an insane amount of donation for an individual to actually be able to write it off. So yeah, I don't expect that to be a problem. Businesses can donate and write it off as a business expense. On the other side, they're pretty much identical in terms of reporting. They both need to file a 990. So all the 501c3 status would give you is some additional charities that may provide funding and additional grants you may be able to get that 501c4s cannot.
okay, that's great. So one item that I didn't include on the list here is some of the research that I've been doing into sources of funding. Um, the NLNet has been fantastic for us, but they're very project focused. And the big advantage for us is that the money goes directly from NLNet to the developer. So it doesn't affect the Redox reporting at all. But it only works as well-defined projects. And I found that trying to do these things as projects that I'm directly managing, coordinating, and planning is not um, ideal. I'd be much happier if there were more people who were stepping up, and I could just act as a secondary reviewer to make sure that we're staying in scope with whatever we agree to with NLNet. But I'd really like to have more projects where developers are proposing their ideas. They fit within our roadmap, and we pursue funding from NLNet that way. I've also found another organization, OpenSats, which is specifically focused on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin community, and they pay in Bitcoin. They pay to developers. So if there's people who are very interested and excited about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in particular, or the other thing they do is I've forgotten the name of the communication protocol, but there's a communication protocol that's very popular in the Bitcoin community, and
The Lightning Network.
no, it's the other one. I'm just gonna very quickly look it up.
Noster.
Noster, that's it. Yes, so Noster and Bitcoin related projects, OpenSats has money available. They're very generous from what I can tell. I've never applied to them directly, but it has to be a project rather than just funding the general funding for Redox. I don't think they would do that. And payment is specifically in Bitcoin. The developer will be paid in Bitcoin.
Yeah. It would be also good to go back to the Rust Foundation. They now have a bunch of programs in development, and at RustConf they announced one program that had received, I don't remember what it was. Oh, it was Rust TLS.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so the one challenge I see with the Rust community is that they are mainly focused on things that move the whole Rust community forward.
Right.
And Redox is a little bit narrower than that, although I think it's pretty much as important as as Rust overall to the long-term success. But that's my opinion. Okay, so any other discussions or questions about development and funding of development?
Yeah, another person we might want to reach out to would be the creator of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin. And the reason is that he's been really interested in funding project specific, not even related to Ethereum, but related to his own interests. If we could receive an Ethereum donation, though, it would be very helpful.
Yeah.
And I know he uses System 76 computers too.
Okay. So
if we had some convincing thing about privacy, it would go a long way towards bringing in people in those communities.
Do you mean to request funding from Ethereum?
Yeah, I would want to build a pitch based on what they're interested in. So Gitcoin, for example, was funded by Vitalik. We can probably there's a lot more to talk about. We also tried to reach out to I don't remember which one it was. It started with an F, and it was 4 letters. But we never received a response.
oh,
That's the
that's
one
the
that
one
the
in Texas.
guy who was behind WhatsApp, one of the original WhatsApp creators, funded.
Okay, I'm not sure who that who that is, but there is that thing in that group in Texas.
Yes,
that,
that's the one.
Okay. Yeah. And I can't remember their name either. But
There are so many out there, but the thing is, I've become extremely skeptical about AI. I mean, I always was. I guess I'm more publicly acknowledging that I'm skeptical of it.
yeah.
And I'm particularly skeptical about there being opportunities around AI in particular for Redox. The the primary places where it seems to have growth right now are being driven mostly by investor greed and the reality that the stock market is shrinking in almost every place except for the places that say that they're investing in AI. While at the same time, the technology itself has not improved very much since the 70s. Really, we've just got the hardware to push through algorithms that were invented far, far back in time. And for Redox, what our future looks like, I think, is one where reliability, privacy, security, those are the features that are important. We are an operating system. We aren't trying to be involved in the UI or user experience areas. We're trying to be a platform that competes with other platforms and offers ideally higher guarantees, higher reliability and security in those small sections where we think we can compete. And so those are places like running containerized apps and WASI. Those are places like being a hypervisor or being a server operating system. Those are the things where I think we could really succeed. Trying to find the funding opportunities that align with those and actually have some goals to get us past the hurdles. We are so close on a few of the things like self-hosting. We are so close to being able to just build Redox on Redox. We're so close to having containerization work properly. We've regressed in a lot of areas. For example, Ron, you had created the containerized desktop image, and it was working until some changes in the lower level have broken containerization on Redox. So,
So
hoping, yes,
Ibuki has reworked that, so that should be coming back.
I'm hoping that with the capability security based security project that we get even stronger guarantees than we had in the past. And these are important things, I think, because when you look at the other projects that have had that have built out some kind of niche, I mean, FreeBSD, for example, I think the thing that's keeping FreeBSD alive is that it has things like FreeNAS, TrueNAS that are running on top of it and have integrated it as a product and that people are relying on. If Redox can get one of those wrapped up and put somewhere where it can actually fund the project, it would be a big lift.
Yes, I think that there's a bunch of dominoes to fall in terms of checkboxes that will suddenly make funding come available to us. And working backwards, the biggest one is having Redox deployed and in use for a purpose.
Yeah.
That really opens a lot of doors for us. I think the capability-based security is a tremendous asset for us and opens a lot of doors for us. Performance is an ongoing issue. We need to really understand what opportunities are for performance improvements, but my sort of target is if we're within 10 times of Linux or BSD performance for our main use cases, then we're sort of in the game a little bit, but we have
Yeah.
to get much closer than that, and we're not there yet. Um,
I think there are some very small things that would influence performance. One is just going to the scheduler and making some, I think, minimal changes to the scheduler would have a great would impact performance a lot. For example, I found that sleep granularity is the minimum time that we can rely on sleeping being accurate is about 10 milliseconds because of the context switch timers. If we were able to go tickless, that would mean that everywhere where there are sleeps would become far more accurate. And so the minimum time would become much less, and that would drive performance up in cases where really all that's happening is that we're waiting for a sleep. And there are definitely inefficiencies because when measuring the throughput of certain things, for example, Orbital, there is a pixel cannon demo, which roughly maxes out Orbital's capabilities. And the frame rate is not as dependent on the size of the window. That example does a software rendering of um, of basically a Pac-Man kind of character. And the frame rate is not dependent as much on the size of the window as it is on the characteristics of the context switching algorithm. So that's an example where really memory throughput should be determining the frame rate, not context switching. So I think we have the same problem for the disk drivers, for the network drivers, where we have just inefficiently scheduled the work because the context, when the context switches happen, it does not jump to the ideal context. It just jumps to whichever one is next in line and is ready.
yeah, so 4LDO2 has prototyped the direct context switch to the target, and that showed a really substantial improvement. So completing that work is covered under the ring buffers project.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that specific feature would be available sometime in the spring.
That's
In terms,
good. I want to throw one thing out there, though, about performance. And there is an ongoing kind of, there's a movement among C projects to start using a different compiler called FilC, which essentially converts C to something that's partially interpreted at runtime to prevent memory safety issues. And FilC allows for legacy C code to become more memory safe. However, it has a cost, and the cost is runtime performance. So we don't have to argue that we are as performant as Linux. We just have to argue that we get a level of security or memory safety or whatever characteristics with performance that would beat the best you could do on Linux if you tried to achieve the same characteristics.
yeah.
I also saw the FLC project, and it seems to, in fact, it seems to crash the program when it's found memory bug.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't tell you at compile time, so you don't really have. You are relying on it to prevent execution from continuing after an error happens, and that's different because in Rust, while we do have that and we have panics, a lot of the time we're able to catch those bugs beforehand and deal with them appropriately. So I would really hope that we can state that, and especially to organizations that are interested in security, that should matter. And it's really hard to construct a system with any other operating system that is as wide general purpose as Redox OS already is, but can have those kind of reliability characteristics.
Yes. What I let me remind. It's about QC. Well, I remember. This is good, but I treat it as a testing tool for development, because when the program has some memory bug, it will crash. So it's not an improvement,
Yeah.
but it helps testing and development. And other thing, I would argue that one of our great strengths and advantages is sandbox by default. I think it is very important for both Linux and Windows. Linux is limited on this aspect, as sandbox is only enabled by default on Flatpak and Snap, and the rest of the system is unprotected. So I think the Redox sandbox is one of the most strong points and arguments that we can use to get funding.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could, after the capability security project has made contain work again, it would be nice to go back and just default to using it for most of the services. And we also have a number of services that don't enter into the null namespace anymore because they have to open certain files. But it's possible to construct a namespace where those file resources are already opened or already available. So that would be a big advantage too if we were to sandbox everything by default.
Yeah, the other big piece of that is a browser that's sandboxed per tab, and I think there is work being done on browsers that are sandboxed by default, and it'd be great for us to either integrate one of those browsers or to look at something like Servo and have a sandbox by default backend to really bring the message home.
Yeah.
About web browser sandbox, Linux did some work with Flatpak and Snap sandboxing for Firefox, Chrome, Brave, but Flatpak is limited. I think Snap is strong, but you still have the Linux kernel bugs to escape the sandbox. So Redox is a lot better and don't have the Flatpak limitations and the Snap performance cost. I think we should follow the design similar to Android. The Android sandbox is very good, but same problem of Linux, where it relies on the Linux kernel for sandbox security.
So this is one area that concerns me quite a bit, because a big opportunity for us in the short term to getting real users is Redox that's hosted. And I don't know where we stand if we are running Redox on QEMU with VirtIO drivers. I know that there are escapes from Podman and Docker, but I don't know if there are escapes from QEMU, especially using VirtIO.
There's always the possibility.
Yeah. So I do think that we have to pursue Redox hosted and using VirtIO backend, because that gets us to real users fastest. But I think there's no doubt that we have to pursue Redox running on real servers and having really high-end performance servers able
Yeah,
to run Redox.
that's another thing. The scheduler decreases in performance when adding CPUs. So
Yeah.
on servers that have 128 CPUs, you may get worse performance than on running on only 8 of those CPUs, depending on the task you're doing. So there's a number of things we just need to look into. For VirtIO, what I would be concerned about is areas where the user space is able, and especially third-party user space, is able to send arbitrary data to the VirtIO devices. Because there have been escapes, there have been vulnerabilities in, for example, graphics drivers, where running a specific shader would allow the program that's creating the shader code to get privilege escalation and run code as the kernel. In Redox, they wouldn't be running code as the kernel, but if they're able to do the same thing and then chain another vulnerability in the VirtIO implementation, then they would be running, they would be potentially able to abuse the kernel that's hosting Redox. So
Yes, that's very ugly.
yes, I doubt these things will happen, but it's something to keep in mind, and why it's so important to have very strict boundaries and to think about any of the places where we do any kind of validation of third-party data. So there have been issues, plenty of issues along the line of how we're handling, especially the interfaces between schemes. For example, there was an issue very early on that wasn't fixed until much later, where not page-aligned buffers from user space would then expose kernel memory to the scheme. And it was determined not to be important until later. And then we fixed it by having kernel allocated buffers that are page aligned that replace those unallocated sections. But those kind of things are trivial to introduce in Rust code as well. So that's one reason why it's so important to have everything containerized. I still expect there to be vulnerabilities in the drivers we write. Just writing them in Rust is not enough. There can be logic errors. For graphics drivers, graphics cards have their own memory management. So they have their own page tables. They have, sometimes they have access to the host memory. And if their page tables are incorrect, then they can access arbitrary host memory. So just have to consider that Rust is not the end of the vulnerabilities. It's really only the start. And going down and trying to experiment with what we can do with our microkernel design to prevent individual programs from having access to things they shouldn't, even if they malfunction, is very good, as well as going down and trying to lock down devices. Any devices that use DMA, we need to be able to lock them down. So something that will be important before we can really say that we have a strong capability-based security is to be able to allocate physical memory to devices, so they can only DMA into buffers that have been allocated to them. So I would really want to see us working on IOMMU support.
So one other area that I just wanted to emphasize, because it's already come up a few times, but um, so graphics support has pretty wide-ranging implications for us in terms of value for funding, because it opens up any kind of compute acceleration, AI, crypto compute, and analytics of all kinds that are really important. So, and that's putting aside all the things that we would then be able to do on the desktop as well. So I do think that graphics and compute acceleration needs to be very high on our list of projects. And we've been making incremental progress, but the more talent we can put behind that, I think the better. But I think I want to just highlight a couple of things. Hopefully, we'll wrap up after this. So the work that that Matthew is doing with OS test is incredibly valuable. It's going to help us accelerate our porting and allow us to be more test driven, which is a very efficient way of working. So that's something that we need to keep an eye on. There's also an action item to improve our cycle time with improving tests. So when you improve a test result, it usually implies a change to relibc and potentially a change to some system service or the kernel. So we've got to get the ability to make the change and test it into a very short cycle, which I think means that Redoxer is going to have to be built as a target for testing. The next thing is the container-based security being high priority, performance being high priority. I think that we don't have enough of a strategy around performance, and I would like us to think about a more test-driven model for performance. That we have a performance suite that we run, and we allocate people to improve the results. If somebody jumps in and says, "Hey, I'm excited about Redox. What can I do?" We can point to a test, a performance test, and say, "Hey, maybe work on that." I think that would help a lot. And the compute acceleration, I think, is something that we've got. Bjorn has been working on the graphic side of things, and Jeremy has been working on the graphic side of things. But it'd be good to have somebody that's really focused on the whole area of graphics and compute acceleration, and the WASI backend for compute, and virtualization of the I/O for the graphics cards, all that stuff. So that's an area that I'm excited about, but I think that trying to attract a person to do more of that would be very helpful. Okay, so I'd like to just...
The unfortunate reality is most people who are involved in accelerator development are people who are working explicitly for the purpose of enabling their hardware company to make more money. So these are engineers at Intel, at AMD, at NVIDIA. Vertio GPU was developed by Red Hat. For us, the only hardware that actually has adequate documentation has been Intel GPUs, but they cut off the documentation after the Xi HPG series, also known as Alchemist, which was released in 2023. So all the newer platforms don't have anything published yet. And the source of truth for that driver is just the Linux kernel, the DRM i915 driver in the Linux kernel. So also I found lots of lacking information, lots of things where I had to have a reference to the Linux kernel DRM module. And the way the BSDs have brought in that module is essentially by rewriting large parts of it. So they are not able to keep it up to date. And that worries me a lot. That there's basically, unless you have investment from a hardware company, you're not going to have a full supported hardware acceleration.
Yeah, I think that has to be done by creating pull, by having somebody with buckets of cash saying, we love Redox, it needs better acceleration, better compute acceleration. And so pursuing, in spite of the distaste that it leaves in people's mouths, pursuing AI and crypto as key opportunities for us can create that pull. And
all we need to do is to get, I'll tell you something, and this may be surprising. The driver that is likely to be easiest to port in terms of the kernel DRM drivers that exist right now is the open kernel module by NVIDIA. And the reason is that it already has backends built in for multiple operating systems that are maintained upstream by NVIDIA. So they have backends for FreeBSD, they have backends for Linux, and that enables them to release drivers on those platforms in lockstep. Rather than the Intel and AMD drivers that are often far behind on BSDs because Linux is the source of truth.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to figure out how to build a relationship with NVIDIA somehow. And again, I think it's going to be finding somebody with deep pockets who is excited enough about Redox to use their influence with NVIDIA to say, hey, at least pay attention to these guys. Maybe you want to have something that they can integrate.
Yeah, we should also look at the Nova driver. With the cards, the newer cards that use the GSP firmware, the interface is much simpler. So it's possible that the Nova driver would be easier to port over than all the other DRM drivers. It's also written in Rust, which makes it a lot easier. I tried to start the work on porting over the DRM drivers and have them just like basically running a pretend Linux kernel environment inside of a user space program. And there is a lot of stuff we would have to bring over to the point where it seems to me like it would be easier to have a custom configured Linux kernel that only had the DRM drivers and what minimal things we needed, and just pass the IOCTLs and whatever else directly to it. I'm not sure I really want to go that way. I want to have native graphics acceleration. I want to have the ability to experiment with it and optimize it. The interfaces that we're working with now, the DRM interfaces, were developed in 2013, and that was the third version. There were earlier versions that are much earlier and older. The first version, I think, is in the early 2000s when they finally decided that they would simplify all this stuff that had grown into different X11 modules and try to combine it into common code in the kernel. So graphics acceleration is just incredibly messy, and I think we should try to focus on having in my opinion, a native driver for VirtIO GPU, where Mesa could run on top of it, would be the best first thing to go for. What I'm working with on the Intel driver is more about mode setting and that side of things, trying to get all the displays connected to have frame buffers allocated. And that will get us some way to doing the acceleration, but the acceleration work is easily a multi-year project for a single engineer. So without help from the actual hardware company, I don't see it being successful.
So again, I think one of the things that we have to have an eye on is this idea of creating pull, where we show what we can do if we have funding.
Yeah.
And not necessarily try to be the best at a thing that we eventually want to be best at, but to show that we could be.
I would like to comment two things about computer acceleration. I think you can compute is a good opportunity, as it seems to be increasing in usage and adoption to and competing with CUDA. And I think maybe I don't know, the open source NVIDIA drivers can run CUDA kernels. Jeremy can confirm. I don't know, but I think Vulkan and not OpenCL. OpenCL has a very low adoption, I think. Vulkan is a good opportunity for compute acceleration. Other thing is, well, I know the documentation, the GPU documentation is bad, but I think if you have a high quality driver or high quality drivers, it's a good thing. I think it's worth. And as Linux adds more Rust drivers and Rust rewrites, like the recent RAM GPU driver, I think it's, what's the name? I don't remember the name now. But
yeah, Linux wants all of the DRM maintainer announced that they'll only be accepting new drivers that are written in Rust. So Nova is one of the drivers. There's the Apple driver for the Apple Silicon graphics, and I would expect more to be coming. And maybe they'll push for conversions of other drivers like the Intel and AMD drivers.
So just to make sure that we capture it in the minutes, you said Vulkan, Alberto, VULKAN, is that correct?
DLKM. Can you repeat?
So first I want to confirm that Vulkan is what you said, and the spelling is VULKAN.
Well, I'm not understanding. You can write and test me, but I mentioned Vulkan compute acceleration. Yeah. It's using the Vulkan API to do compute acceleration.
Okay, I think
yeah, it is Vulkan.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'd like to move on at this point. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So can I get a motion to discuss the action items?
Moved.
Seconded.
So these are the following action items. The following action items have previously been identified. So if anyone has anything to report on any of these items, then speak up. So coordinating contributors. So I haven't tried yet to organize team projects in GitLab, but that's an action item on me. We have been using milestones for the NLNet projects, and that I'm very pleased with using milestones. But I think there's probably other tools that we can take advantage of. For example, the projects with the board with the different stories and things like that. Next thing, the website. So Wilden updated our homepage. That's been something that we've been waiting on for quite a while. So it's a no JavaScript design, and it's still on me to go through and review the content and make sure that it all matches up with our view on careers, on governance. Our SOC needs to be updated and that sort of thing. So I've got to put some time into improving the content of our website. Trademark was an action item on Jeremy. Thank you very much, Jeremy. That's fantastic that we've got a trademark policy for Redox right now. And again, if anybody wants to see it, scroll down to the bottom of our homepage and click on the link to the trademark policy. 2024 financials I've already mentioned. So that's on Matthew and me to complete and get that to Jeremy for review. The other big thing is we're going to be holding elections for the board of directors in January. The elections necessarily need to be open, and we would love to have more volunteers. I would like to find one more director, but it's not super urgent now that we have 4 people. I think that the board that we have is quite effective. I would love to add somebody who's a deeply technical person, one of our core contributors or something like that, if we can find a volunteer for that. But we should announce in the next few days, we should announce that we are open for volunteers and nominations for the board of directors. Okay, so for the next board meeting, I've written in the minutes December 31st, but it's January 31st. We need to have our next meeting by January 31st, including the election of board of directors. So the agenda would be approval of the minutes from this meeting, then election of the board of directors, report on finances, report on development, and report on the action items that we've already identified. Is there any new business to discuss? The floor is open for any other topics. There being no other business, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move it.
Seconded.
It's moved and seconded that we adjourn. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. Thanks very much. The meeting is adjourned.